Hello and welcome to another 30-minute yoga class by DRVN on YouTube. My name is Beth and I'm glad you're here. If you're having trouble with tightness in your neck or your upper back or shoulders, this is for you. I have a friend who calls this the texting practice because we're all like this, and that takes a toll on the neck, and the neck is connected to the shoulders and the back. So this practice provides a number of poses to help relieve some of that tension that we all get. And maybe it's not from texting, but we're looking down a lot, on the computer or cooking or reading, and that does kind of loosen up those muscles there, loosen in not a good way, makes them a little bit too elastic. So, and we're constantly doing that. So this helps to strengthen all those muscles and provide some. So I'm glad you're here. Good for you for showing up. Let's get started. We're going to start in a seated position. So come to anything that's comfortable. As always, if you've taken my class before, you know that I like to take a minute or two just to be present in the practice. Know that you're sitting on your mat. Let your mind be here in your body. So easy to think of everything, especially these. For now, you're sitting on your mat. Know that you're sitting. Feel your body sitting. Feel the legs cross. Feel the sitting bones making. Notice the positioning of your torso. Are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back? And try to make any adjustments so that your shoulders are right over your hips. And lifting up out of your hips. Sometimes when we make these adjustments to our seated posture, we become more aware of sitting because now we're using muscles that we weren't using before. But if you practice this good posture when you're sitting, it starts to become very natural. And even when you're sitting in a chair that has a back to it, you won't be kind of slouching down into the back of the chair. Find yourself sitting straight. So there's a benefit for practicing this good posture on the mat. Helps us off the mat. Always take a moment or two to connect with the breath. We always have our breath with us, and it's a living part of our body. And in that way, I mean like it's always moving, it's always changing. So we use that as an anchor to help us stay and noticing what the breath is doing today. Maybe it's fast, maybe it's slow, maybe it's shallow. Check out your breath. And don't judge, just know. Enjoy each breath. So grateful for every additional breath we have. We can start adding some movement here. So you can close your eyes if you like. It helps to really stay focused. Draw some circles in the air with your nose. So little circles, like the size of maybe a teacup saucer. Trying to maintain that nice straight spine. Belly in a little bit. And just notice how this feels. Maybe you feel something in your neck as you make these little circles. So just notice if there's any cracking sounds. And then a few times in the opposite direction. Noticing if it feels the same on one side or the other, and try to keep your spine straight, so only moving through the neck. And then pause in the center. Let's roll our shoulders back a couple of times. Pulling them all the way up to our ears as high as you can, and then pressing them down and back. Squeezing those shoulder blades together. Feels good too. And then come to stillness. And we'll go back to our nose circles, but this time make the circles bigger, like maybe a dinner plate size. And notice if these bigger circles feel any different than the other circles that we started with. But nice and slow. And then if you are doing this and you're passing over a part that feels a little tight or icky, you can pause there and then just do a smaller up and down motion or side to side motion to massage out that connective tissue around that sticky part. If not, you can keep just doing those big circles. And then a few times in the opposite direction. Lots of crinkling noises sometimes. Or is that just me? I don't know. I don't know if you hear those too. Make sure your posture still has integrity. Come to center, and this time roll your shoulders forward. So up towards your ears and squeeze the shoulders in. They don't go very far, but just squeeze them as far in towards your center line as they can go. So good for the shoulders, the back. And the nice thing about this sequence is that you can do this at your desk. I think you can do it in your car as long as you're paying attention. You know, you can do it kind of anywhere. And then stop. And now we're going to go back to the circles with the nose, but really, really big. So let your head fall back. Bring the nose over to the side. Point the nose down towards the floor. Other side and all the way up. So this is like the size of a platter, a serving platter. And then notice if this brings anything new in terms of sensations in your neck and shoulders. Sometimes I feel this in my jaw, so you might be surprised where the sensation shows up. A few times in the opposite direction. And you know, the neck and the upper spine really love this movement. The spine, as you know, is just a bunch of joints stacked up. So we need to move them in all directions, and this helps the upper spine, the cervical. All right, come back to center. Nice job on that. I hope that feels good for you. My neck feels nice and loose. Let's come on to tabletop. We're going to come into puppy pose. Some people like to walk their knees back first. I don't, but you can try walking your knees back and see if you like getting into the pose more that way. Otherwise, just walk your hands forward, nice and slowly, reaching them as far as you can. You can bend your elbows down to the mat, release your head down to the mat, and see if your chest can reach the mat as well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Some people don't make it to the mat with their chest, and that's fine. Every pose should end up in a way that feels right for you. And sometimes I like to just take my time getting my chest down there. So if you're trying to get that deep into the pose, just, you know, maybe come up and down a couple times. And then when you're ready, settle into the pose, forehead on the mat, reaching the arms forward. And notice where this shows up for you. Connect with your breath. And you can also add some movement in the hips, just let your tail wag is what they call it, but just let your hips kind of ride from side to side. And then pausing in the middle, release your hips to the mat. So straighten your knees, come all the way down. And we're going to come into Sphinx pose. But, you know, Sphinx pose is a nice gentle pose. But we can really activate the muscles in the arms. So check your alignment here. Your elbows are under your shoulders. Your fingers are spread nice and wide as you can. And your wrists are in line with your elbows. And your two arms are parallel with each other. And look down and check that out. And then press your forearms and your hands and the pads of your fingertips into the mat. And then roll your shoulders back and down. Shine your heart forward. Be careful not to lift your chin too high here. That will give a crick in the neck, and we're trying to work on the neck. So drop your chin a little bit so that your head is in line with the direction of your spine. Pressing the arms into the mat. Shoulders are pressing down and back. So while this is a very subtle pose, you can really feel the energy rising up. And then slide your feet and legs in towards the center line of the mat and squeeze them together. Even though this is a chest opener and a shoulder strengthener, might as well work the legs too. So squeeze them together. And let's just pause here for a couple of breaths. Noticing if you're able to keep your attention on your mat. Maybe today that mind is just wandering. No worries. I mean, no judgment there if you're all over the place mentally, but just notice it. It's good to notice and then kind of see how things change from day to day. One more breath. Squeezing those shoulders down and back. Pressing the arms into the mat. Keeping the legs engaged. Nice. And then release all the way down. Oh, that feels good. Bring your arms out to a T shape and your chin to the mat. Just connecting here with the earth. And adding a nice shoulder roll here. Roll over onto your left. Bring your right leg out in front of you. Knee is pointing up towards the ceiling. Foot is flat on the mat. Head is down on the mat. So I don't know if you can see it, but my left arm is still in that T shape, and I'm rolling over onto my shoulder. And hopefully you're feeling that nice stretch in there. Maybe you'll see it better on the other side. But just pause here. This is such a relaxing pose. Feel the stretch in the shoulder on the left. And then some people, just because they're multitaskers, they like to push this leg away while they're here, and they get a little stretch through the psoas muscle. But you can do that or not do it. This is really meant for the shoulder, so just melt into it. Full breath. That feels good. And then release. Come back back into the T shape. So palms are facing down, reaching your arms in opposite directions. And then roll over onto your other side. So same thing. Now we're going to roll onto the right hip. You can move that left arm over. Bend that left knee. Bring that foot in front of you. Knee is up. I apologize, my back is to you. Just for a minute. But maybe you can see how the shoulder roll is. Release your head all the way down. And if you're not feeling anything in the shoulder, kind of roll back a little bit more. And then you'll see how the pose changes. Really kind of cool. Then when you find that sweet spot, just release. And release by relaxing into the pose. That's what I meant to say. Find your breath. And release your posture. Come all the way back onto your mat. That's one you can't do at work or in the car. Come up into Sphinx pose again. Slide your hands to the sides of your chest. Spread your fingers nice and wide, rooting down through the pads of your fingertips. Elbows are in. Legs are zipped together, so press them in towards each other. Toes are pointed. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, press into your hands, lift up into cobra or baby cobra. So you can come up a little bit or come back, come up all the way. Find the place that feels good for you. Either way, shoulders are back and down. Squeeze those shoulder blades together. Keep those legs squeezing in towards each other and release all the way down. We're going to do that a couple more times. So just reset your spine here. Inhale and push. Maybe going higher or going lower, whatever feels right for you. But keep those shoulders down away from your ears and shine your heart forward. And release. Really feel that strength building in the arms. One more time. Press away from your nice back bend here. This is the opposite of how we normally sit. And release all the way down. Oh my gosh, that feels so good. Come back into child's pose. Let's release that lower back especially. Bring your toes together, knees apart, and release your hips over your heels and just walk your hands forward. Or if you prefer child's pose with the knees apart, of course, that's an option for you too. Always yogi's choice. This is your practice. Let it answer all the needs in your body. And just pause here. Pressing that tailbone back as you stretch through the lower back. One more breath. And then let's come up into tabletop as we transition into plank pose. We'll do a plank down dog variation. So coming into plank. So in plank pose, remember you're gripping the mat with the pads of your fingertips, really like you're trying to hold on there. And step your feet back onto the balls of your feet. And you always have a modified plank as an option too. Just make sure that there's a straight line from your knees to the top of your head. Sometimes I see this in a modified plank. And if that's as far as you can go, then stay there. But try to lower those hips a little bit. Squeeze through the glutes, pull the belly in so you have a nice straight line. Or you can do full plank. So either way, press your hands into the mat so your body is pressing away from the mat. Squeeze your glutes, pull your belly in. Use your breath. Keep that head up. Sometimes we like to drop it, but we're trying to strengthen the neck muscles. So keep that head up. Use your breath, especially when it gets dicey. And then push back into down dog. Oh, there's the release. There we go. And just add some movement to your down dog. You can pedal it out. You can twist at the waist. Whatever feels good. Lots of ways to move in down dog. All right, so we're going to flow a little bit from down dog to plank. So find your beautiful down dog. And then inhale into plank. Hold it long enough so you really feel the energy starting to build. And then exhale back into down dog. And back into plank with your exhale, down dog. One more time. Just notice how each time you go through, how maybe each pose feels a little different, maybe better, maybe more strenuous. Coming into plank. Drop your knee. And let your elbows move towards your ribs as you lower your chest. Slide your arms along the sides of your body. Tuck your chin in towards your chest. Lift your chest a little bit up off the mat. Lift your palms up off the mat and press your fingertips down towards your toes. Press your shoulders down. Holding here. Press your legs together. You can lift the tops of your feet up off the mat a little bit, building some strength in the back. Hold. Breathe. Notice. And release. Bring the chin to the mat. And just feel the energy moving through your body. Bring your hands back to the top of your mat. Stack your hands. Rest your forehead on your top hand. Bend your knees. Let your feet just side to side. Gentle at first. And then as you can, the feet can make it all the way down towards the floor or close to the feet. Just simple movements that have such a in the body. All right, pausing in the center. Toes are up, toes are pointed. Coming into like a sphinx pose at the top half of your body. So you can stay right here if you want. This is a beautiful pose. You get a little gentle stretch through the quads because your knees are bent. You can stay here. Or you can start reaching down with your hands and grab onto the top of your feet. Try to keep your knees in line with your hips. They have a tendency here to kind of separate a little bit, but keep them in line with your hips. And you can stay right here. Point your toes, squeeze your shoulder blades together. That will lift your chest a little bit and keep your head in line with your spine. Inhale. And as you exhale, press your feet into your hands, and that will lift you up a little bit higher. If that's too much for you, then just go back to where we were. That's still a great pose. So either way, squeeze those shoulder blades together, shine that heart forward, keep your head in line with your spine to support your neck, and then if you want to go deeper still, you can try pointing your toes up towards the ceiling, lifting your thighs up off the mat, deep back bend pose, just noticing how that feels. If that's not available to you, it's okay. Stay in that first range of motion or that first version of the pose, that we were in. And release your posture. Oh my goodness. I love the release parts. Those feel the best. And then let's come into child's pose just to reset the spine. This time, keep your knees together if that feels better for you. Hips over the heels, reaching the arms forward. All the way down. Couple breaths. Using these moments of stillness just to reconnect the body. Give yourself a pat on the back for a job well done. And then when you're ready, come back up into tabletop. Another nice shoulder pose, really common, thread the needle. So in a nice strong tabletop, check your alignment. Remember, we're gripping the mat with the pads of our fingers. And keep your belly pulled in. And on your next breath, bring that left arm out to the left. You can follow it with your gaze. And then twist at the waist and bring that arm up towards the ceiling as high as you can go. Now, some of us can go about 45 degrees out. Some can go perpendicular to the floor. Just go where you can go. Don't try to force it. This isn't a contest. It's a yoga practice. Just notice how that feels. And then release. Thread that left arm under the right. Place your left ear on the mat. That helps to stretch the muscles of the neck a little bit on the side. And then with the right arm, you can just reach forward, which feels really nice. You can wrap your arm around your back, which is nice also, pressing that right shoulder back. So however you want to hold your pose, just set that up and let the weight fall into that
left shoulder. And take a couple of breaths. A lot of stillness in this pose. Releasing any tension from muscles that you're not using, like around your eyebrows. And then you can come up out of the pose, going back into tabletop. And let's just move the spine a little bit. So wag the tail, let the hips shift from side to side. And you can also follow your gaze to your hips. So when the hips are going to the left, look over your left shoulder, take a peek at those hips, and then come over to the right, look at those right hips. Go nice and slow so you don't get too dizzy. And then pausing in the center, and then we'll do that same thing on the other side, all right? So nice, strong tabletop. Really important that you check in with that alignment before you get started. Nice and strong, belly's pulling in. Lift that right arm out to the right, and then start slowly bringing it up towards the ceiling. So you might notice that on one side you can go further. Maybe on this side you can go all the way up towards the ceiling, and the other side you were maybe at 45 degrees, or maybe not. Maybe they're both at 30 degrees. It doesn't matter. Just go as far as you can, as far as it feels good for you. And then release, spreading that arm over to the left. Drop that right shoulder, drop that right ear. And then decide how you want to hold your left arm, either reaching forward towards the top of your mat, really stretching forward there. You feel a nice stretch in that left side. Or you can bring it around your back. Everyone can find their best place for their left hand. But this pose is mainly for the right shoulder. So leaning into it, relaxing the neck. And then noticing the rhythm of the breath as your body just sinks into the pose. And more breath. And then gently come out of the posture. And release your hips over your heels. This time bring your arms along the sides of your body. And then as you come towards the mat, forehead on the mat, and let your shoulders just hang down. Make like your shoulders are really heavy. Relax your arms. And just kind of surrender into this pose. This pose has so many benefits for us. So that's a nice one to add, especially in the shoulder sequence. And a couple breaths. And slowly lift yourself out of this pose. Just sitting up on your heels. If this doesn't feel good, you can grab a couple blocks or pillows and sit up a little bit higher, which is a really nice way to do it. So however you're sitting, bring your hands to you. And let's go back to those circles we were doing with our nose and see if it feels any different this time. It may or it may not, but it's nice to compare. So just we'll start with little circles, and then go to the dinner plate circles, so a little bit bigger. And then the serving platter circles. And noticing if this time around, maybe things are more fluid, or maybe not. So don't worry if it feels the same. But part of our practice is noticing how each pose and how each movement affects our body. So it's nice to check in a couple times in the opposite direction. Let's start with big circles. And getting smaller. So I'm noticing less cracking in my neck. I'm wondering if you're noticing anything different. Back to
A little bit of stillness here. Noticing what's going on in the body now compared to when you started your practice. Release your posture. We'll finish up with one last pose. One of my favorite poses. It's called fish pose. Probably done it before. So release your legs all the way on your mat. Come onto your forearms. Feet are together. And then we're going to walk our elbows down towards the bottom of the mat. And it's going to feel a little awkward, but we won't be there for long. So walk your elbows down. You can place your hands under your hips to support your back a little bit. Right? So legs are zipping up together. Now this is a terrible posture right here. Look how my neck is hanging forward. So we're going to release that into the pose. So take a deep breath in. Push your chest up and your belly kind of out towards your feet. And then let your head fall all the way back. And almost like shift your whole body forward towards the top of your mat as you release your all the way down. Oh my gosh, that's delicious. Now you might not be able to get your head all the way to the ground, and that's okay. You can let it hang, but it feels a lot better if you place a couple blocks or a pillow under your head. So if you want to grab that while you're doing this, while I'm doing this, I'll wait for you right here. And think about pressing the chest up. Again, this is one of those poses that is kind of opposite to how we normally hold our neck, giving that usual position. If you want to add a little bit more to this pose, you don't have to. You can always lift your legs up. It works the quads a little bit and some of the core. But think rounded a little bit through the spine. So a nice curve through the back of the spine. Kind of hard to breathe here. So in poses like this, we take a shorter inhale and longer exhale. And fully release out of the pose. Kind of awkward getting out of it. Bend your knees. And just let your legs shift from side to side. You can bring your arms out to a T shape. But as the legs are coming across, add a little pelvic tilt here so you get a nice massage of that lower back. And try to bring your knees as far to the earth as you can so you get a nice stretch through the side body too. Just a classic move. Feels so good. All right, and bring those knees to center. Extend the legs on the mat. Bring your arms up overhead. Interlace your fingers. Press your palms away from you as you point your toes and stretch in opposite directions. And then release. Now we'll take a short shavasana here. I wish it could be longer. We'll take what we can get, right? So release into your shavasana. Deep breath in through the nose. Open mouth, exhale. Use this time to give your body a rest. You're so busy every day, going, especially during this month. 1 minute rest. So good for us, just to recharge, ready for what's coming. But keep your focus here. Let the rhythm of the breath relax you. Your heart filled with gratitude, time together. Showing up and for moving in a way that honors the body. Stay with me now in these last few moments of our class. Just start moving a little bit. So easy to end class before the end, but last few traditional things that we do at the end of our practice are really good to help seal all the benefits. Come up into a seated position. Anything that's comfortable for you. Again, this is how we started. So it's nice to end the same way we started so we can really assess. Close the eyes. Go into your body. Feel that oxygenated blood flowing through your body, getting to every single cell and nourishing. Your exhale, cleanse your body of toxins, physical and emotional. Let that stuff go. Your hands to heart center. The light in me salutes the light in you. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. I love that practice. I feel looser in my shoulders and my neck. I hope you do too. I hope you're checking out all of the Driven videos. They're great. Nice way to just keep moving during these busy times. Hope to see you next week. Stay healthy. Namaste.